The big developments we are tracking this morning, it's a turning point in the history of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Their supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, has been eliminated. This is something that the state media has now confirmed. The Iranian state media has now confirmed. So have the Americans and so have the Israelis. Khamenei was killed in strikes, early morning strikes yesterday morning. These were strikes carried out by the United States of America in Israel. He was at his office when he was killed. So there is now information emerging that tells us that the Israelis had intelligence exactly where Khamenei was hiding and struck it early in the morning when the Iranians were not actually expecting it. Again, we are being told he was killed in the early hours, something that the Iranian state media has again reported. We are also picking up, and there are pictures that have now emerged, that his body has been retrieved. Whatever remains of his body have been retrieved. Now, the succession plan is currently in progress. It is underway in Iran. Iran has installed a transitional leadership. We have Ahmad Vahidi, who has stepped in as the head of the Revolutionary Guards, the elite guards that protect not just Ayatollah Khamenei, but also the Islamic Republic, both at home and abroad as well. So this is a powerful military group. Their commander-in-chief was killed in strikes as well. So they have appointed a successor there. What the Revolutionary Guards are also warning is this. They are saying that devastating retaliation is incoming. So essentially it is a warning that has been put out. Meanwhile, we do know that celebrations have erupted on the streets of Iran, not just on the streets of Iran, but also in world capitals. We have seen pictures of celebration come to us from London, from Madrid as well, where there are Iranians, many of them in exile, many of them who actually disagreed with the regime in Iran, who had to flee Iran because of the brutal crackdown. So we are seeing moments of joy. We are seeing joy erupt on the streets of Tehran, also in world capitals. But there have been a set of pictures that have again come to us from Iran, where there are some who are mourning the passing of Ayatollah. We are also being told that another top general of the Revolutionary Guard has been killed. The Secretary of Defense Council has also been killed. So there is essentially the attempt of Israel and America right now, after taking out Ayatollah Khamenei, is to kill the entire top military and political leadership so that a new regime can be put in place. Israel, in fact, is putting out, and they're putting out pictures, satellite pictures as well, where they're saying that at least 30 targets have been 30 locations in Iran have been targeted in a fresh wave of strikes this morning, and that continues as we speak. President Donald Trump, in an interview to CBS, is saying now there is a possibility of a diplomatic solution. That possibility much stronger today than it was yesterday, which means it was impossible to speak to the Ayatollah about a diplomatic solution. But now that he's been taken out, he's been killed, a diplomatic solution could be possible now. But given the strikes and the counter strikes we are seeing, that looks highly unlikely. Rishabh, you're joining us on the broadcast. Sierra Claire joining us on the broadcast as well. Good morning to you. Abhijit, good morning to you as well. Rishabh, I'm going to come to you first. Are you hearing anything at all from the Ministry of External Affairs over the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei?
Well, Shreya, we are still yet to hear from Minister of External Affairs. A concrete word is yet to come in. The only statement that has come in yesterday was that India is monitoring and concerned about the escalations in the West Asian region. And now we are waiting for, External Affairs Ministry to tell us. Remember, there are 8 million Indian nationals who live in this region. Saudi Arabia, about 2.4 million, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Bahrain, Israel, Jordan, all this area, Iran for that matter, all these areas, we have a huge diaspora, as well as Indian nationals who are there working in various industries, from nursing to, plumbing to everything. In Dubai, if we talk about, since yesterday we have been seeing social media posts. So we have our stakes there, not only investments, but we have our people there also. So External Affairs Ministry is definitely going to respond shortly, is what we are given to understand. As of now, we haven't heard officially from them, but definitely it's going to be very, very interesting what India does from here on. Remember, Iran, Iran had in place India's Central Asia.
Give me a moment here, Rishabh. There is some breaking news coming in. We are being told that explosions have rocked the Erbil airport. There have been some explosions at the Erbil airport. This is what Iranian media is telling us. Abhijit, I am in fact just to tell you what is happening here. All of this has coming amidst regional tensions, of course, but these explosions have happened near areas housing U.S. troops. Coalition bases have been hit, apparently hit in Erbil. That is a question that we'll need to ask. Erbil, of course, in Iraq. Tensions have spread to Iraq as well because you have Erbil that is being hit. So this was expected that the conflict will not remain just isolated to Iran. Iran will respond as well. And this is probably Iran's response, Abhijit, that has begun.
It's a Kurdish area.
This is a classic case of the use it or lose it dilemma. They probably sense that they're on their last leg as far as the power structure goes. And they've decided they're going to use every single piece of equipment they have in the best way they possibly can. They've got some long-range missiles, so they will keep attacking Israel. But what do you do with all the shorter-range missiles? They have to put it to use, and they've decided to put it to use. So the issue isn't Erbil. Erbil is still a legitimate target because it is a U.S. military base. I think the real worry is Iran deliberately targeting civilian areas. Kuwait Airport and Dubai International Airport last night, attacking the Burj Khalifa and attempting to attack the Burj Al Arab, attacking the Fairmont Hotel in Palm Jumeirah. These are kinds of escalations that really shouldn't be happening. It shows an intent to attack civilian areas during a war. I don't know what they're thinking at the moment because, you don't expend expensive equipment attacking civilian areas which has zero impact on the military. This is usually a panic reaction. There has been speculation that some of this is being done to induce financial panic and trigger a refugee movement of expatriates out of, expatriate havens like Dubai and so on and so forth. The issue, of course, is if you want to do that, you don't do that when the airspace is closed. So you've literally trapped them out there. And once the air opens, it'll be a relatively sanitized airspace. This we kind of suspected because there was rumors of Khamenei being killed by the afternoon. And when we saw the images of his compound, we at least thought he might be wounded or somebody in his family might be killed. But I think we were fairly certain once the attacks on civilian infrastructure started, we realized something was wrong because a disciplined military leadership does not order attacks on civilian targets. So clearly there was some kind of revenge motive happening.
The Revolutionary Guards have already spoken about retaliation, that retaliation underway. Quickly answering the question as to why Iraq, the U.S. maintains a presence at the Ain al-Assad air base. It is in western Anbar. It supports Iraqi security forces and it also contributes to NATO missions. In fact, Iranian missile strikes had targeted the base sometime in 2020 in retaliation for the U.S. killing of Iran's General Qasem Soleimani. We all remember that. This particular airbase that has been targeted this morning by the Iranians, it's situated in the semi-autonomous region of Kurdistan, as Shinjoy just mentioned. This is in northern Iraq. The Erbil airbase serves as a hub for U.S. and coalition forces that conduct training exercises and battle drills. The base supports U.S. military efforts, providing a secure location for training, intelligence sharing and logistic coordination in northern Iraq. Not so secure, Sierra, then. Are you hearing anything at all from the Americans as to how this entire operation to take out Ayatollah Khamenei was actually executed? We understand, and Shinjoy has been speaking about this, there is a big possibility that there was a mole who had been nurtured by the Israeli Defense Forces, possibly the Mossad, for years and years on end, who has finally been used. Anything that you are picking up, Sierra?
Well, I would say that, these particular strikes that we're seeing right now were meticulously planned out by the U.S. military, at multiple different times. Of course, most recently, because we were in negotiations with them and President Trump wanted the military options, which he did end up having to use. But even before that, there's been plans about taking out the Iranian regime if the opportunity were to arise. So I'm sure that they've had these plans. And I'm sure that the intelligence agencies were involved as well, and, with assets on the ground. I think that the Israeli intelligence, when it comes to Iran, the Israeli intelligence is really the ones that have the most networks and resources, but America is obviously involved as well.
Give me a moment, because we've heard from the Iranians. We are now hearing from the Israelis as well. The IDF, that's the Israeli Defense Forces, have launched a fresh wave of strikes. Just take a look at these satellite images that they have released. 30 targets have been hit in Iran, is what the IDF is claiming. Israel has targeted Iran's missile launchers. Overnight, the IDF says it has completed another wave of airstrikes against Iranian ballistic missiles, launchers and air defense systems. Dozens of fighter jets, according to the IDF, have hit some 30 targets in the strikes, including air defense, missile launchers and other Iranian military strikes. In fact, this is news just coming in, and I think we can break this as well as we speak. An Iranian anchor, let's see if we can try and put her picture out, has actually broken down while announcing the death of the supreme leader. We'll just quickly put those pictures out for you. Says, a revenge is coming soon. This is what the anchor, there you see him, on Iranian state TV is saying. He is warning of a revenge that is coming soon. He also says they will see what they have done, which means the Israelis and the Americans will see what they have done. Pratrikit, at this point of time, realistically, how much can Iran achieve against the United States of America and Israel?
Well, physically, it's impossible for Iran to target United States back into North America. So most of the time, they will try to target the U.S. bases in the whole of Middle East. But at the same time, Israelis and Americans have never underestimated the capacity of Iran to launch strikes. Even last year, when the war actually started between Israel and Iran, even though the Israeli Iron Dome was pretty successful in thwarting most of the incoming missiles and projectiles, some of the missiles were of hypersonic nature, and they had a completely different dimension altogether. So right now, if the regime presumes that they are on its last leg, they will go all out. Going all out would not just mean attacking Israelis or American installations. They would go for the Sunni Arab states. As we have earlier discussed, there are deep sectarian differences that cannot be ruled out. And I had also mentioned, and it's very, very clear, that they may not have been able to enrich the uranium to the level of, say, 98 or 99%, but the possibility of them having a dirty bomb cannot be ruled out. So it all depends upon whether they still believe that they can continue with the regime, or if they think that it's all over, they will ensure that something is done devastatingly by them. So I think right now, the Israelis, if you see the attacks even today morning, these are attacks for the launchers, for the ballistic missiles, because they know they would be used, even though I'm sure the Iranians have other measures somewhere deep hidden inside. I just want to mention one small point, Shreya. Yesterday morning, the first strikes by the Israelis were at 8:15 a.m. And generally, as pre-dawn strikes are the norm, in this case, there was a specific congregation that was happening of their supreme leader and the top generals, and that's the reason they risked an early morning strike. And I'm sure there were certain kind of an electronic warfare measures put in place. So that's the reason their incoming missiles or the aircrafts could not be located where their air defense system or the early warning system. So I think this whole thing have been planned out for a long period of time. They exactly knew where they were going, when they were going, who all were congregating, and it's not something you can do in one day. There is a huge problem of inflation within Iran. You can simply see in the parlay of spying, the basic norm is money. Money is being used here, and it's a norm. And the fact is there are moles. See, the problem is their fear is that if you announce a successor, others would think that if I stay in the vicinity of the successor, I'll be the next target, because many have been killed yesterday. And that's what we saw with the Hezbollah thing, what the Israelis have done. That's the reason there's a little bit of, say, jittery in terms of announcing the leader. But if they don't announce it, their ability to create that aura and continue with that aura within the country, it's going to come down. But it's a deeply divided country. There are people who are celebrating, but there is another section who still owe strong allegiance to the regime. Correct. And they can give up their life.
And in fact, one of that group is on our screens. Can we just put out? We now have a fresh video, so we are putting this out. An Iranian anchor breaking down while announcing the death of Ayatollah. He, again, you'll hear him in a moment, says a revenge is coming. A revenge is coming soon. They will see what they have done. Listen in.
از ولی فقیه شرعی الله اکبر الله اکبر من المؤمنین رجال صدقوا ما عاهدوا الله علیه فمنهم من قضى نحبه ومنهم من ينتظر وما بدلوا تبدیلا انا لله انا لله و انا الیه راجعون. بعد از عمری مجاهدت حسینی و دائمی و خستگی ناپذیر، روح بلند و ملکوتی کوه نستوه ولایت، پدر مهربان امت، رهبر و امام مسلمین حضرت آیت الله العظما سید علی.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's a big update in the story that is developing this morning after Ayatollah Khamenei was taken out in American and Israeli strikes last morning. That confirmation coming in this morning, the U.S. is making a sensational claim. This is what they are saying, and I will play out that soundbite as well, but just reading it out while we cue that. This is coming from the official account of Ambassador Mike Waltz. He is the U.S. representative to the United Nations. This is very interesting because he's claiming that the Iranian, I'm reading out that tweet, the Iranian regime has even attempted to assassinate the U.S. President Donald Trump. Now they are masquerading as a victim. Now we have taken lawful action. Sierra, have we heard this before? The Americans claiming that the Iranians were trying to assassinate Donald Trump? Or is this the first time you're hearing of it?
No, this has been a concern for President Trump since his first term, and there have been threats, that they've found coming from Iranian agents who were trying to find ways to plan an assassination. So, and I remember, I think Trump even mentioned it once, and he said that they made a mistake when they, when they targeted him in that way, and he said he doesn't forget. And, so now we're seeing that he did not forget. And obviously, I think these strikes, as I've said before, were instigated by Iran's failure to engage on the nuclear issue and the negotiations that President Trump wanted to have. But it is, all of these other things do come into play. And I think that they miscalculated who they were dealing with President Trump.
But Sierra, the fact is that the Iranians were negotiating on the U.S. On the nuclear deal with the U.S. They were very much on the table. In fact, it is Donald Trump who pulled out from the deal.
Well, the Iranians were at the table, but they were not offering any concessions. And President Trump said several times that by the next meeting he expected them to come with concessions. And we heard that those meetings that just took place right before these strikes, the news report that came out from the U.S. side anyway was that they were very far apart still.
Abhijit, can as we see a morning that is filled with fast-paced developments, I just want to take a moment here to talk about what happens to Iran right now. They are in a period of mourning. They have said they will retaliate. Their retaliation is something that we are already seeing. American bases in Iraq are being targeted as we speak. The IDF is targeting some, or has already targeted some 30 installations in Iran. All of that is happening. So we are seeing a proper, call it limited conflict, call it war, what you will at this point of time, but that is playing out in the region. That is very clear. But what happens to Iran? Khamenei has been in charge, ruling with an iron grip for the last 36 years or so, which means that there are many, many people in Iran who've not seen an Iran without Ayatollah Khamenei. So what happens now?
So, Shreya, one of the things I was watching in the pro-government protests, people coming out to cry, is a lot of secular women. Even my friends who are, very secular people in Iran, they are upset because this isn't about regime change. For them, this is about a foreign invader coming and bombing them, right?
Exactly.
And we should never underestimate nationalism. I've tweeted out images of several secular women, keeping absolute minimal veil as mandated by law, coming and carrying posters of Ayatollah Khamenei and things like that. This is not to say there isn't opposition and it isn't strong. It's just that there is a nationalist sentiment out there, number one. Number two, let's assume the Americans and Israelis are right and this is an absolutely lunatic regime, fundamentalist regime. What happens if that Israeli assessment is correct is that decapitation invariably leads to much, much more risk-taking, much more dangerous people rising to the top who are much more resilient. Remember, Hassan Nasrallah, the assassinated head of Hezbollah, he came to power when a much older head was installed. And Hassan Nasrallah proved to be much, much more virulent, resilient, and vicious in his fight against Israel. This is what you will possibly see because the Israelis yesterday in a press conference said, a briefing said that they are eliminating the past, present and future leadership. What that means is you come down to the colonel level, the colonel or lieutenant or below captain level. When they're young, they're very idealistic. They tend to be much, much more fanatical. I suspect you're going to see a hardening of position, not a softening of position in Iran. Unless, of course, the Americans have done something like Venezuela, where apparently the vice president knew the capture of Maduro was going to happen 18 days prior. Unless they've set up the succession, most probably this will be more virulent. And finally, Shreya, the last third point I want to make here is the problem with the use it or lose it dilemma is that they may not have a nuclear bomb, but they certainly have enough dirty radioactive material to make a dirty bomb.
Correct.
And a dirty bomb going up and off in the upper atmosphere, well, I wouldn't want to be anywhere near that region.
It would be unprecedented. And it would be catastrophic.
Horribly catastrophic, absolutely.
It would be catastrophic. Even, anybody who actually orders that would be seriously, it would be a really worrying issue.
But the Iranians have been pushed to the edge. They are a deeply patriotic people. That is something that we cannot underestimate. That is something that Abhijit is pointing to as well. And if there is a foreign power that is coming in, eliminating a leader that you may not have agreed with, that still, in a way brings the country together. As I said, 36 years is a long, long time. There are many young people in Iran who have not seen a life without Khomeini. He's plastered everywhere. Every Friday on their state television, he appears and gives sermons. But anyhow, we are hearing from the Americans. I think we can now listen into that soundbite where you have Mike Waltz, who's the U.S. representative to the United Nations, now claiming that one of the reasons that the U.S. decided to do what it did is because the Iranians tried to assassinate Donald Trump. Let's quickly listen into that.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wish to exercise my right of reply to the so-called representative of the Iranian regime, the United States strongly rejects this ridiculous and frankly farcical assertion that U.S. actions are inconsistent with international law. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted, quote, "Death to America," at every turn, at every opening of its parliament. It has sought to eradicate the state of Israel. It has waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder. It is responsible for a series of unprovoked armed attacks targeting the United States and Israel, violations of the UN Charter, and threats to international peace and security across the Middle East. It has even attempted to assassinate the U.S. President Trump. It has done so not only directly, but through its proxies, seeking to hide and mask its bad actions while publicly claiming to be a victim. Iran's menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, our partners, our allies around the world. The United States has made every effort to negotiate a peaceful resolution of this conflict with Iran. But Iran has failed to take that opportunity. So in close coordination with the government of Israel, the United States has taken lawful actions to address these threats in line with Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations. And Mr. President, I'll just say on a final note, you know who is not complaining tonight? You know who is not citing the vagaries of international law? You know who is celebrating in the streets around the world? The Iranian people. Mr. President, maybe, perhaps just maybe, they will finally be free. I thank you.
Sarah, you've just heard what Mike Waltz there said. The fact is that President Trump had told protesters in Iran way back in January that help is coming. No help came. The help has come end of February. What pushed it? What was the trigger? I ask you that question because Washington Post is now reporting that it was the Saudis who actually lobbied for these airstrikes.
I've heard that report as well. You know, I think that when the other countries that are experiencing threats from Iran, you know, expressed to President Trump that they would support an action like this, of course, he takes that into consideration. But President Trump ultimately makes his own decisions. And I believe that the timing of this strike was related to the meeting that they had with the leader and the top generals from the Iranian regime. And so this was an opportunity that they saw and that the Israelis saw to initiate these strikes, you know, with that opportunity to strike the regime and get a lot of targets in one go. In terms of President Trump wanting to help the protesters, he did and he does. He always said, though, that the naval armada deployment was in relation to the nuclear issue.
You know, a 40-day mourning has been declared by Iran. I think I said 7 somewhere in the broadcast, so I'm just correcting myself. It's a 40-day mourning that has been declared in Iran. Abhijit, or you know, maybe Pratikrit as well, would you want to come into the come in on the question of how this happened? The fact is that the Americans had been articulating their intent very clearly, the Israelis and the Americans, for the last 2 months at least. One would have reasonably and logically thought that Iran would take precautions. For example, the Ayatollah would be in a place where he can't be touched by the Americans or the Israelis. I simply fail to understand what happened, how they could let their guard down. Maybe Abhijit, if you would want to start, and Pratikrit can come in after that.
Okay,
Sure. So what we know is that apparently the decision, at least from Channel 11 and Channel 12 reporting in Israel, was that the decision had been taken almost 4 months back. The date, 6 months back, and the date had already been decided. So it was done. The second piece of information that Channel 12 also reported was that all the talks were strategic deception. They were done very specifically to go ahead with the strike. The decision had been made. The outcome of the talks was irrelevant. The problem that happened at the talks was they expected Iran to understand the gravity and start caving in. The Iranians came very strong and diffident apparently at the talks. This is the Americans saying. The Omanis disagree with that. And that is why they decide to go in for it. Now, when over 2 months, if you say that there has been a threat, the first few days they will hide and then, come out again. You can't live in a bunker continuously for 2-3 months, especially not when you're a man like Ayatollah Khamenei. And I suspect that is what has happened. Remember, there were lots of false alarms we had over the last 3 weeks, where you'd see American tanker aircraft take off in a swarm. And the belief was that the bombings were going to happen that night itself. So I suspect what has happened out here is he was lulled into a sense of, inertia. Where he just decided that let's have the meeting. It's not going to happen right now. Maybe they'll wait for the talks to finish in Oman. And well, clearly it did. You take gambles and you pay the price.
Pratik, we are hearing from the Chinese as well. I'll come to that in a bit, but go ahead.
No, I completely agree with Vijit. See, what happens is that somewhere you get a sense of comfort that, okay, I am impregnable, I am completely fortified in this particular region. So you come out. But, those strikes, that specific day, that specific moment when that strike happens, that is probably a last-minute decision by the Israelis and the Americans, because that specific information may have come probably 1 hour or 2 hours before the strike actually happened, and somebody insider actually gave it out. It is not entirely about electronic intelligence of the Israelis and the Americans working and ensuring they exactly know where the place is. There are a large number of insiders, and that is something the Israelis have worked for a long period of time to have people inside Israel. They have bought it out. That's simple. Other thing is a strong possibility. If you look at what happened in case of Venezuela, their air defense system it did not work when the Americans went in. If you look at the Iranian air defense system, they are mostly of Chinese origin, mostly, if not entirely. Somewhere, the electronic warfare mechanism of the Israelis and the Americans were put in place to ensure that once those incomings come in, even probably 20 minutes before that, they would not get an inkling. And that is, if you see the kind of anger the Iranians are showing to the Arab states, most of the incoming missiles and the fighter planes, in case they have been used, often pass through the Arab airspace before entering the Iranian airspace. And that is where their anger is, that not only did you not stop it, but you did not even inform us, because forget about electronic capacity. You can have visual reference to the Tomahawks coming in, and still that was not passed on. So there is this anger, and that's why I say the Arabs have never been comfortable beyond that, Muslim Ummah thing. They have never been comfortable with an Iranian regime controlled by Khamenei having a nuclear bomb. So more than the Israelis, who have a far more formidable air defense system than the Arab states, more than the Israelis, it is the Arabs. It is the Arabs who never wanted this to happen. I mean, they having a nuclear bomb. Last point, last year when they attacked the Fordo, Natanz and Isfahan area, Americans eventually realized that beyond that entire, pomp and show of what I am capable of with bunker buster bombs, it did not work out. It did not take away the capacity of the Iranians to build that thing. See, you cannot destroy a knowledge system. You can destroy certain facilities. The Iranians have developed that knowledge system. So this war is not going to end. They would have somebody else. They will still start working out, making the missile. And the Israelis in the last 2 decades, they have all that they've tried to do from Stuxnet, if you remember. They have tried to delay that enrichment of uranium every time by 5 years. But this time maybe they realize it's too late. Now you have to go for all out. Back to you.
But the fact also is you're talking about a knowledge system, a nuclear knowledge system in Iran. Fact is, in the summer war in June, on the first day of strikes, you had 9 top nuclear scientists being eliminated. And in subsequent days, you had more nuclear scientists along with top military leaders being eliminated. I think the numbers stood at 40. So the Americans and the Israelis have done what they could to dismantle this knowledge system. Have they been entirely successful in it? That is a question that is still open to debate. But as I said, we are hearing from the Chinese. They have issued a statement. I'll quickly read it out. They are saying that China is highly concerned over the military strikes against Iran launched by the U.S. and Israel. This is what a Chinese foreign ministry spokesperson has said. He's saying that China is calling for an immediate stop to military action. Srinjoy, on expected lines, but do we expect China just to issue a statement and then keep quiet about it?
At the moment, yes, because the Chinese are long-term players. They will assess the situation. They know their relations with the United States. They know their relations with the Iranians, all of that. So they've said all the right things, that they want de-escalation, they want a ceasefire, they want diplomatic debate, and so on. That's the clear Chinese statement, and it is entirely on expected lines. Let's not forget, it's very similar to what India has said. India has spoken out for peace. India has said de-escalation, diplomacy, and discussions. So this is approximately what the Chinese said, and the Chinese are close to the Iranians, and therefore you would have expected them perhaps to be more firm and not just say things, but to do things. But as I said, the Chinese are long-term players. They want to assess the situation and then decide what exactly they will do as opposed to say things.
Okay. Give me a moment here. Let's just put those pictures out. Ladies and gentlemen, these are pictures that we now finally have from the Erbil base in Iraq. These are the exact moments of the bombing. There are some pictures that have now emerged. This is where you have a U.S. base, you have some installations. Blasts have been reported there early this morning. Of course, it is an Iranian strike, given that this is a U.S. military base as well. It is in Iraq. So those pictures now emerging. As we see those pictures, Abhijit, can I come to you on the question of China? China and Iran are allies. We know that. Right now, they have just stopped at asking for a de-escalation, for a military de-escalation. But there have been, well, rumors, and this is the fog of war, and it could be totally false, but there have been rumors that have been swirling since last night that there were some 16 transport planes that made their way from China all the way to Iran, undetected, I don't know how, but undetected by the Americans and the Israelis and everyone else in the middle. They landed there, they deposit a lot of ammunition for the Iranians, and then undetected quietly fly back. To me, that is an impossibility, but I want to ask you again, if China will just stop at a statement seeking de-escalation.
They have no option other than to stop, because they don't have the wherewithal to do anything about the situation. Regarding the 16 aircraft, there's an actual book, a very boring academic book, but still fun, written about conspiracy theory in the Muslim world, which is because the regimes are so oppressive. Conspiracy theories and fantasies are some things you see a lot in the public discourse. They're a way of coping with situations that they can't really explain. When you're told that your country is all powerful and starts collapsing, this is what you hear. It's sort of the last hurrah kind of a mentality happening out there. Third, we should remember that even if China had the wherewithal, it does not. China would do absolutely nothing. China does not believe in allies. It believes in equipping free radicals across the world to create local disruptions. like they use North Korea to bog down South Korea and Japan, like they use Pakistan to bog down India, like they use increasingly Laos, but also Burma to bog down Southeast Asia. And by some accounts, Russia is now their biggest and most important disruptor to bog down Europe. So there, they have a very zero-sum game of international politics. They don't believe in getting involved in their, their ancillary states. They're not allies, they're ancillary states problems. They believe in equipping them to the best that state wants to get equipped and destabilize the region. So it isn't even in China's interests as they see it to get involved in all of this. Bigger question is of Russia, because Russia is the one that actually claims to support allies. They failed spectacularly to support Armenia, even though they had a formal defense pact with them. And with Iran, well, they're also bogged down in Ukraine. We shouldn't forget that. So I think the big international game loser in this is really Russia, not so much China.
Okay. We've heard from President Trump, not an official address, but he's spoken to CBS, quickly putting that out because he's one of the protagonists in the war that is playing out, possibly the main protagonist here. He's saying a diplomatic solution with Iran is still possible, and now it's much easier than it was days ago. So this is Donald Trump to CBS. He's saying this is a great day for this country, which means Iran, a great day for the world as well. He was questioned about a successor to Khamenei. This is what he said to CBS. He says there are several suitable candidates, but he did not name anyone. Now, there are reports suggesting that the expert council of clerics, it's some 88 clerics in that council, have already picked 3 names. But a formal declaration of the one who is going to succeed Khamenei is going to be made. Will they do it immediately? Will they do it after the 40-day mourning period is over? Remains to be seen. But can a country be in the middle of a war without a leader? That is a question that the Iranians will need to answer. Trump is also saying we thought Iran's retaliation will be twice as many, saying that he's not, which essentially means he's underwhelmed with what Iran has done so far. He was asked this one question, and I think this is very pertinent because the answer didn't say much. He was asked if this is war, and he didn't say anything. So that is where the story stands as of now. I'm slipping into a break, but my colleague Akansha is joining us this morning as well. Hi, Akansha. Good morning.
Good morning. A lot has happened in the last 24 hours. In fact, Iran's supreme leader has been killed. Where and how he has been killed, let me explain that to you through this map graphics that we've made. It happened yesterday, Feb 28th. Early Saturday is what we're learning. And here on the map, you can see the location of Khamenei's office. It was in this compound of his residential compound that he was working, and that is when he was struck. This was quite close to the international airport in the capital city of Tehran. Remember, yesterday these visuals had come in of the early strikes as far as the official residence and the office of Iran's supreme leader is concerned. And here is the place where it all happened. This is the place where he was working when he was struck and he was killed. That was the office of Iran's supreme leader, and it happened yesterday is what we're learning so far. Back to you.
Thank you so much. We are now, in fact, getting some pictures, ladies and gentlemen, from the Iranian embassy in Delhi. We'll try and put those pictures out because one of the things that we need to look at is how India will react to the killing of Ayatollah Khamenei. They have asked, India's position has been, this is an era of peace, this is not an era of war. Yes, that has been the position. But will they be expected to at least issue a statement on the death of Khamenei? That, of course, is expected. We are waiting to hear from the MEA. We'll try and put those pictures out, but what you're seeing right now in Delhi at the Iranian embassy is that the Iranian flag has been lowered to half-mast following the death of the Ayatollah. We'll get those pictures for you in just a bit, but for the moment, a quick break. Our coverage continues. Do stay with us.